Hey friends, welcome. It is day number 2, and we are excited to keep going with this Anyone Can Paint Challenge. And I'm not here alone. I've got 2 friends today with me. We've got Diana Shine, the amazing, the wonderful. How are you?
Oh, it's so great to be here and to be here with all our new friends, new and old. I see lots of familiar names and lots of new names, and I'm just so happy to be here with you.
So good. And Mr. Peter Stout.
What's up, everybody?
Peter.
Hi, Diana. Hi, Jed. Good morning.
Good morning. It is a good day to be together.
Yeah.
Good day to be together. So today,
Agreed.
what's cool is, Diana actually just finished teaching a workshop up here, but she is with us today in this. And so we're going to have her in for the Q&A at the end, which will be extra special for you guys. If you have questions throughout the day, make sure you stick around till the end, and we'll have a Q&A time. And you can ask questions of me, but also Diana will be here to give her wisdom and insights. So we are looking forward to that.
Yes, of course.
Is there anything that I need to share that we want to say right now, Peter, before we get going?
I don't think so. I just wanted to remind you, because I think we forgot to talk about it, to pull up the Nightbot for the giveaway later.
I've got it up,
Nice.
and it is going.
He beat me to it.
Yep.
He's head of the ball.
Okay, Diana, do you have anything you want to say to the people?
Just welcome and have fun. This is going to be a great day.
Yes, it is. Okay, we're going to jump into our slides real quick here, guys, and we will move forward.
All right. See you later, Diana.
Bye. I'll be in the chat.
See you guys.
Yes.
See you soon. See you soon. Okay, so day number 2, Anyone Can Paint Challenge. We're going to start a simple painting today. We're going to do some exercises before we get going in that. If you need any help to find anything, this is the place to go. acrylicuniversity.com/begin. That is the dashboard for this workshop and challenge right there. So today, like I said, we're doing this intro. We're going to do a blending/edges type of exercise. And then we're going to do a grayscale painting. We're going to be talking about values. And then we're going to do our prizes and Q&A. And what you need today to follow along, you don't necessarily have to paint along like during this time, but if you do have a pen and paper, we're going to just do one quick follow-up exercise that we're going to use that writing kind of utensil and paper for. And then we're going to have our paints out and working for that portion later. Now, no matter who you are welcome here. But the reminder is this class is specifically designed for newcomers, newbies, and novices. It's a straightforward, simple class. We want you to feel comfortable, be able to ask questions, and most importantly, have fun learning to paint. So who here is a newcomer or a newbie or a novice? Write it in the chat. I like to see, hey, who's with us today that goes, you know what? I'm either brand new, I'm pretty new, or I'm switching mediums. This is my first time here. Or maybe even you're going, it's just been a long time that I haven't painted and I feel like I'm new. Look at this. Me, newbie, I'm new. I'm a novice. I'm brand new. I'm pretty new. Look at this. I love it. Brand newbie. I love it. Okay. So very fun. Pretty new. Okay. I love it, guys. And that's why we did this, because we felt like that was a small gap that we had in what we do with our normal master classes and challenges, is that sometimes people will come in and we'll be running at a little bit too quick of a pace for somebody who just wants to get the basics. So that's why we're doing this, guys. And like I said earlier, Diana's going to be here for the Q&A. She's got just an incredible wealth of knowledge that you can draw from. And I was super impressed. I want to take a minute to look at day one's homework, the idea that we were reconnecting with the creative dreamer inside. If you remember that, just kind of thinking about how creative and imaginative we were as 5-year-olds, right? And then sometimes that gets pushed down so much, and we're just trying to create a connection where we guard that creativity inside of us. And so at the end, we did a 7-minute little exercise, no pressure, just have fun, no judgment. And these were just a few little images that I pulled out of the Facebook group that I thought were really fun. Just super, super fun, creative. Some people were painting with their left hand or drawing with their left hand or writing with their left hand still. Some were just having fun, experimenting different tools, just allowing themselves to be free. I thought it was fun. I can't remember the name who did this one, but I remember he said this was so surprising how it kind of moved you or worked in you. But it's super fun. Like, what I want you to see here, guys, is how each one of you is so unique, so different. Like, your voice matters. What you do matters because it's you. And there's people around you who need your creativity. And I wanted to read this one. I thought, again, I'm not sharing names here because I just thought it would be better not to, but I love what you wrote here. It says, this is the little 5-year-old writing. And you put this in your own words, and I thought it was really cool. You said, "Hi, do you remember me? I'm the one who made the colorful sand cups, that designed Barbie dresses from scraps, that drew birthday cards, drew geometric, colorful designs, designed space shuttles, and drew the desert burro to music. I'm waiting for you." And then the response of the adult, "Oh, younger self, I'm so sorry to have ignored you for so long. Starting today, I promise to let you have regular opportunities to play, to learn, to allow you to be you, my creative dreamer." So, isn't that cool? I love reading that. And so we're going to pull out pen and paper. We're going to do this real quick here, guys, because I believe that this one part of this journey is something that we just kind of need to go back to. And this little interaction between the creative dreamer and your adult self, I think you can adapt it, you can paraphrase it, you can make it your own. But I think it's something that we could practice and get in the habit of on a daily basis, on a regular basis, that would help us to stay connected to that creative part of us and live a little bit more every day with freedom. So this is what I want you to write once again with your non-dominant hand. I am and always will be a creative dreamer. Now you could put that into your own words, but something like this: I am and always will be a creative dreamer. And then again, to switch the pen over to your dominant hand and respond intentionally, making that agreement and say, and I commit to always guard that sacred part of me. And I commit to always guard that sacred part of me. It doesn't have to be a huge deal. That's all we're going to do. I am and always will be a creative dreamer. And the response, and I commit to always guard that sacred part of me. But I think intention matters. What you are aiming at matters. And if you're not aware of the subconscious kind of leaning that many of us have toward perfectionism, toward self-criticism, toward doubt, and the pushing down that we inevitably and yet unintentionally do of that creative dreamer, we'll just keep doing it over and over again. So this is an intentional act to say, no, I'm going to guard that part of me. So everybody done with that? I'm going to move on. Okay. As we're going, let's just keep encouraging each other, learning from each other, growing together, and having fun. And I appreciate you guys being encouraging, not just toward yourself, but also toward each other. Today is day 2. We're going to do this simple plan, blending edges exercise, grayscale painting, prize at the end, and the Q&A with Diana. So the next big question for you is this: are you ready? Are you ready to go? What I want to say is that you do not have to paint along. Sometimes it's easier to just watch the exercises through and come back and do the painting later. Or you might start your painting, the exercises as we're going, and you might realize, okay, it's going a little bit too fast, so you might just set your brushes down for a minute and then come back to them later. Or you might be able to keep up. It's up to you what you decide to do. I'm not going to force you to do anything, but I'm just letting you know you don't have to paint along. But I see this. I'm ready. Let's do it. Ready, ready, ready. Yes, I am. Born ready. There we go. All right, guys. So let's start today's lesson. We're going to roll some exercises that are going to show you about how to create transitions with your brushwork. And we're going to be just working with grays, black, white, and gray today. So this is going to be simple, but you're going to learn some really helpful foundational things that will enable you later to understand a lot more when it comes to design and color. And it will be very helpful for you. So let's roll this. I'm about to get this paper set up here, and I just want to say I did take it out of this canvas pad, and the first one that I tried to take out, you can see got a little bit cut off, ripped right there, and so that made me realize that you do have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to tape it down around the edges. Now you don't have to do this. You could just paint, I believe, straight out of the pad. You don't have to take it out or tape it down or anything, but I thought I would do it. Like I mentioned, my plan is simply to use black and white this first exercise and the first couple exercises. And the reason for that is because it will help us understand, without worrying about color, just how to use the paint and how to mix variations of shades and just use the paint in a very simple way without getting all the complexities of how to mix color involved. All we're worried about is how light or dark is the paint mixture that we're making. This first exercise is going to be quite simple and straightforward. We're going to take a flat, or you can take whatever brush you have. I've got my flat, it's a number 10, and I'm going to start with my dark and I'm going to mix toward my light, and I'm just going to simply make a gradation of color, or a gradation of value, really, in this case. So we'll put on the darkest color here, and I'm just going to simply start mixing in some of the white. And I probably grabbed more than I really needed to here of the white. So I'll just going to keep trying to change this little by little, and then hopefully by the time we get to the other side, it will be completely white. And in the middle, hopefully also we're getting more of a neutral gray that will be right in the middle of the value range. and getting it to be a little bit lighter. So just simply just adding more and more white to the mix. I'm not really cleaning my brush out, although here at the very end, if we want to get that to be as light as the white can be, you can definitely grab another brush or wash yours out. Guys, look at this. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but you just created a gradation. And this is an important thing for being able to create nuanced paintings and understanding values. This is the value range. You have from very, very dark, and in this case, it's just a pure black, to a very, very light. This is white, and everything in between is going to be just along this same value range. Now, black and white is simple to understand. Where you need to understand, this is the same. If we started mixing color, every color will land on this value range somewhere. So understanding values is a very important concept, and I just want to congratulate you on getting your first exercise done. Okay, to make it a little bit easier on myself, I am mixing up an actual neutral gray here, so that I have a little bit more room to do my mixes and things like that. But I also wanted to mention that if you're mixing half black and half white, what you'll find is that the black is a little bit stronger, and it will make the mix of gray darker than kind of the mid gray that I was going for. So I actually just mixed in a little bit more white. And what I want you to do is create a 3-value scale right here. We're just going to have the black, a mid-tone, and you can put down a little bit of white. And what I'm going to show you when this is dry is I'm going to show you how another way that you can kind of, without blending wet into wet, you can create a softer transition between these strong value changes by putting side-by-side values. And this will make more sense when I come back in just a minute here, but I'm going to dry this and I'll be right back. So your first job is to get the 3 values of white, gray, and black onto this and keep them distinct. Don't have any blending in between those. We want to see the contrast. So if you need to take a minute to do that, you can at this point. But if you're ready to move on, we'll just keep going. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush right now, and what I want to do is I'm thinking about, okay, we know that we can blend wet colors into wet colors, and we could create a gradation that way, and it's a soft blend, but we can also do the optical type of blending, where what if we took the color and the value that was in between these and just put it next to this, just right there. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to grab some of my neutral gray and I'm going to mix in some white. Now we know it takes a little bit more white than gray than the black, so I did mix in a little bit more white, and I'm going to just lay this down right next to this. Not trying to blend it or create any soft edge, but I am trying to soften the transition between these. Now I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm not going to get water, but I'm going to just grab this, and this is a mixing a little bit more white into this, and I'm going to do that same thing one more time right here. I'm going to lay it right down next to this other one. Okay, and you see how that is now, we're starting to get softer and softer transition. Now I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to grab, it's good, just try to keep your mixes distinct so that you can tell where you're getting something from. But if we do that one more time, we'll put it right next to the other one. And do you see how soft that transition is now? It's going from white to a very light gray to a little bit darker to the neutral. Now, we could do it the other way also, where we would continually find smaller transitional colors in their mixes. But the main point is you could do this all the way down. But what I just want you to know is that there are different ways of getting from one value to the next value and creating softer transitions. And one is to blend wet into wet. One is to put and lay a color or a value next to another one that is going to help transition and create a softer illusion. It's actually a hard edge there still, but it's a softer illusion. And that's the kind of thing that you can do later in your actual paintings that will help your eye transition from one part of a scene to another part of the scene. And we'll talk more about that later, but good job. Second exercise is done. Another way to create a transition between values or colors would be with another type of optical blend, and that would be called dry brushing. So what you want to do is get a brush that will be like a flat, fairly good size like this is fine. You can use pretty much any size, but you don't want to have too much paint on your brush. But I'm going to start over here with the color as it will be like as strong and opaque as possible. And then as it comes over here, I'm just going to work on using my brush in a softer way, kind of light strokes to make it a broken edge. It's going to hopefully, let me just dry it off a little bit more. If you have too much moisture in your brush, it doesn't work too well. And this is, again, like you can, think of different ways maybe to use your brush strokes, like different angles, things like that. But it's not as blended as this generally. It's not as clean as this. But in certain cases, you can really create a nice effect with a soft dry brush kind of way of approaching this. And there are, potentially like things like if you had the tree leaves going up into a sky or something like that, where that kind of approach might be the very best one for you. Now you can also do that coming back into this with a lighter color like this white. It could also work the same way. And I'm going to show you one other thing with this that is a potential as you're doing it, because you don't always just have to use your brush. You can also do something like this with your finger, or potentially a rag or paper towel. And again, you can see how by rubbing off a little bit of this, we're able to create a transition here and create a very kind of nice soft edge. So again, two different ways of accomplishing a similar feel. One, just simply using the brush and trying to use just a little bit to dry brush. The other would be more like smudging, but removing little bits of the edges of that transitional color and or to create a softer transition. But again, useful things for me. I do smudge quite a bit. If you don't want to get paint on your fingers, of course you could wear gloves, or you could use something like a paper towel or a rag to just do it for you. But again, another way to create nice transitions and soft transitions between colors. Good job. Third exercise is done. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is actually going to be done on this black. I put black all the way across. It's already dry, so if you want to follow along, just make sure that you put black somewhere like this and then let it dry completely. And what I'm going to do is going to be either, the way I'm thinking of it is either you could call it layering or potentially you could call it glazing. Now, a glaze is when you use a transparent color in a light kind of wash, that means thinned down kind of version of itself to cover over something that is, and it will affect that color that's underneath it. Like it'll change it a little bit, but it's not going to completely cover it. An opaque color, if we took a opaque color and went over the top of this, we wouldn't see really the black anymore. But a transparent kind of wash or glaze will change it, but we'll still see some of the color that's underneath. Now, the reason I say I'm kind of calling it a glaze is because titanium white is not a transparent white. There is such a thing as transparent white, and that is zinc white. Sometimes you'll see it called mixing white, but zinc white is a transparent white. You can see right here where it was painted over these black lines, but you can still see the black lines. Now, if I did that same thing with titanium white, which I'll do just to show you, we might still see something through, but it's not going to be transparent like this is. You see how we can see so much better than we can see right here, and so this is an opaque white right here. But if we thin it down, the more we thin it down, because I do have a little bit of water in my brush already, but if I thin it down even more, now you could use water sometimes is an okay way to thin things down. There is debate over whether if you put too much water in, what will happen. Now, the reason I say there's debate is because somebody told me that Golden announced that they didn't think that it was going to affect the adhesion of the paint too much. But if you want to use something different, you can buy a glazing medium or something like airbrush medium to thin your paints down. But the point is that you're creating something that is semi-transparent. It's not as opaque as this because it has less pigment now per the volume, because we've thinned it down with either water or some type of medium. And then we can do some layering here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to put on a little bit of this over the top. And like I said before, it's thin. So when you're glazing, one thing that's helpful to remember, and this is kind of a glaze, but sometimes it's good to think it's not so much about the paint that you put on. It's also like a big part of glazing is how much paint and what happens to the paint when you take it off. But this, we could say, is the first layer of glaze, right? And we can see how it's changed. It's changed it, right? Now, if I wet my finger, like just a little bit, put a little bit of water on it somehow, and just kind of try to blend that edge. If we do it quickly, we can blend that a little bit. It's a little bit dry right now to get it very good, but we can come back if we're quick, and we can kind of get any kind of soft edge, you know, especially with a paper towel or something like that. But we'll just say that this is our first layer here. Now I'm going to dry this, and we're going to come back and we're going to do another layer on top of this. We're going to see how kind of we can transition this all the way across. Okay, so I'm just going to use the exact same mixture. I'm not changing or adding more white or anything like this, because this is all about layers, right? It's not about adding more white to it. And I'm going to try to keep things moving this direction. I'm not going to keep going over everything, so we can hopefully we can see the transition more and more. This is pure black. This here has one coat, this is where it starts to have 2 coats. I'm going to keep drying this. It's going to be over and over again. We're going to do several more coats, and we're just going to work on this gradation through layering or through glazing. Okay, come in here. I'm not going to go all the way over, and we'll do another layer, and I'll soften the edge and come back this way. Starting to see more and more, right? Okay, another layer. Thin, light wash here. And we'll dry it again. Okay, same process every time, same process. Getting lighter and lighter over on the side. Okay, so there you have it. You can see a few different ways of creating a transition between values, transition. This first one, we essentially just went straight across, blended wet into wet. This one, we did transitional colors that made us think that there was a softer transition, but really the actual line in between these is still fairly strong and hard. It's just that the colors are closer in value. In this one, we did dry brush on this side, and we did a little bit more of a smudging effect on this side. And this one, we simply layered. Well, we did do a little bit of smudging also on the edge, but we mostly were just layering on top, and we can see the effect of doing multiple layers. Now, if you were glazing or something like that, there's no need to necessarily do many layers or anything like that. I was just showing you how you can use it and the effect of layers on something like this. So great job. 4th exercise is done. All right. So I think it's time to just have you give any response, like,
Yeah.
you know, any questions on that portion. The next portion is we're going to talk a little bit more about values, and then we're going to move into a black and white simple painting. But I would love to see if you have any questions or anything. Okay, I see this. Which method do you prefer? Now, actually, you know what? Let's pull Diana up here. Diana, can you come up?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, awesome. Because I don't know if you were, have any insight or different thoughts on that, but do you have a preferred method of blending edges if you were talking about your approach?
If anyone's watched me demo, you see my gloves. I always wear gloves because I love smudging the edges with my fingers. That's really a preferred way because I feel like I can really get in there, and if the paint has dried, I can just dip my finger in the color and just scritch it around and blend up the edge.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I would say. Oh, sorry, Peter. I was just going to answer that question.
Yeah. Go for it.
I would say I don't have a preferred method. The one that I use the most is what Diana said. I smudge the most because it's almost an instant thing. You put the paint down, do it. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I prefer it over another method. It's just that it's the simplest, quickest, and easiest. You have a hard edge that you don't want. You can just go like that with your finger and it's gone. Like you can kind of deal with it right then. I think that the idea of laying colors right next to each other that are really similar and creating a transition like that, I think that that's actually really fun for me to think about. It's not what I do all the time because it's like another layer of thinking sometimes for me. But that might be my favorite.
Cool. What brands for glazing paints? Do they come only in clear or question mark?
Diana, you have any thoughts on that?
I don't glaze that often, but when I do glaze, I have some Liquitex glazing medium and some golden glazing medium, and I add it to the brand of paint that I'm using, and just thin that paint down with that glazing medium. And so I don't need to buy a whole separate set of paints. I just have that little bottle of glazing medium.
Cool.
Yeah. And I can show this on screen here real quick.
Yeah.
Let me see. Can we go like this? Okay, so this is satin glazing liquid. This is kind of what Diana was talking about, something like this. This, of course, is golden. It's actually a slow drying extender, this particular one, but you could get different kinds of mediums, and they could all kind of work. Like this is a matte medium. It's just going to thin down your paint, and it will work adequately to do a glaze. But I'm with Diana in that I don't think that there's really a brand that doesn't have transparent colors that wouldn't work. I just kind of like make sure the most important thing is that the color is a transparent color if you want it to be a transparent color. Those are the easiest ones to glaze with because they will.
And don't add white. Yeah. Don't add white to it. Just glaze with the color itself, no white added. Otherwise it'll just cover everything.
Yeah.
Would you use layering to create fog?
Absolutely. In fact, I have this zinc white here. It's like, this is a tube of it. I had that big tube that I showed in the video, and I can't find it right now, but both are like the other one was a fluid acrylic, and sometimes I will do a layer and I'll just kind of try to make a softer transition where I don't want it to be foggy or something. And then, but I might do several layers of that. I've also used, like in this demonstration that I just showed you was titanium white, but it was thinned down a bit. And so you can still do that if you're trying to get a misty scene. You just have to be aware because it will cover it a ton. You never want to you need to definitely thin that down with medium or something so that it's going to at least have the appearance that it's transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
Right.
All right, let's do this one more question and then we'll move on to the next exercise here.
Okay.
Trying to find it. Basically, someone said, is there a health risk to using your fingers?
I don't know that there is. I think the acrylic paint dries on the surface of your skin. It doesn't soak in. But I use the gloves because then I'm touching my camera and I'm touching my computer keys, and it dries really fast on the gloves, so I don't get paint all over my other stuff. Or I can peel off the glove if I have to go and do something, So that part of I hate gloves, and my hands sweat and they're icky. And yet I'd rather not ruin all my equipment. So that's, but I don't think there's health risks. But if you're worried about it, wear a glove. If you have particular needs, wear a glove.
Okay, there's actually, let's try to answer these quick, but these are good questions, so I do want to get to them. Could we use glaze over the whole picture before we begin the painting part to keep the paint moving and not drying too fast?
Yeah, you can. I've done that before. You can just work back into it kind of, and it does help things blend together. But what happens at a certain point is that when that glaze starts to dry, if like you're using a slow drying extender, it will actually get really gummy, and it makes it harder to blend things at a certain point. So you kind of have to work with it for a while. It will keep it kind of that way. You might even put it down, and if it's starting to dry, maybe you spray a little moist, just a little spritz of moisture on it to keep it more workable. Because once it gets to that place where it's in between wet and dry, it's like it's sticky and it's hard to blend. Yeah. So you just kind of have to stop at some point, let it dry completely. Then maybe do it again if you want to, do it again.
Yeah. And then last one we'll get to right now. We'll do more later, but why not just use water to thin the paint when glazing instead of buying glazing medium?
Diana.
Okay, I
Take
can
it
answer
away.
that. There are two different effects. When you add water, if you have texture on your painting, the water like sinks down and pools up in the little gullies in the texture and adds a different effect. Glazing medium covers the whole painting uniformly, or the whole area you're glazing pretty uniformly, and doesn't sink down in the cracks. And so you get like a completely different effect. And if you want to try those effects, get out some old paintings you don't like, or, create some old paintings you don't like, and try the two different effects and see which you like better.
Yes. Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll move into the next intro to values, and then we will jump into the black and white painting. Peter, do you want to have a question time after the intro?
Probably not. We'll probably do intro to values, and then
we'll probably just run through the whole thing. If we see a bunch of questions, if I see a bunch of questions that we should address, throw it out there if you have a question about something, and we will stop the video. But if not, we'll just roll into the demonstration, and then we'll answer all the questions at the end of the session. All right.
That sounds great. All right.
So we're going to talk about something very important, and that is values. And values is a word that might not mean that much to you if you're not familiar with art, but art talk, values means light and dark, how light is a color and how dark is a color. And there's a whole range in between. But this is one of the most important things that I think you can learn, because it's going to affect everything that you do. And the way that your paintings look in the end, you'll have a better understanding if you know that this color of red correlates somehow to the value scale. And what we're going to do to make this really hopefully stick with you is we're going to look at some information that I can show you and kind of explain it. Then we're going to paint a painting in black and white and gray that will help us understand, okay, here are our lights and our midtones and our darks. And then we're going to take that painting and we're going to paint over it with color. And that will help us understand that these colors kind of correlate with these values, right? So anyways, it will be fun, it will be helpful, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's jump into this presentation part. Okay, so we have something that we call the value scale in art. And if you've never heard of it, it might not make that much sense, but I like to use one that goes from number 1 to number 9. Number 1 would be my white, and number 9 would be black, and right in the middle is value number 5. And value number 5 is neutral gray. That's kind of helpful to know, but what I like to think of it is by breaking it in thirds, you really have numbers 1 to 3 are your light values, 4, 5, and 6 are your midtones, and 7, 8, and 9 are your darks. So we're going to think about things in those 3 categories: lights, midtones, and darks. And when you look at a painting, or if you look out in the world and you see colors, sometimes it can be difficult to understand where do these values fit. But if we turn the painting to black and white, it is actually quite a bit easier. See how we can notice things so much easier, like these colors, the light and the white are almost the same, or this value back here is almost the same as this. As it starts to move this way, we can see that this is probably somewhere in this range, and this part of the hill is maybe this range here. So we can kind of start categorizing things into values. Down here in this roadway, we have much darker colors. It's down in the 7 and 8 range, and some of these fence posts, that might even be a 9. So we can kind of determine these things, but seeing it in color oftentimes makes it more confusing, because things like this color here, which is a bright yellowish orange, looks bright, but it's not the same as saying it is light. It's not the same value as this sky is over here, although it is a little bit lighter than the blue over here. But this blue, because it's bright, it's colorful, it can throw us off a little bit too. So knowing and understanding that we can look at things with a black and white version and it can help us see is going to enable us to potentially see the colors a little bit easier. So you can always use a phone, take a picture, turn the picture to black and white. But what we're going to do is we're going to paint a painting in black and white and establish the values, and then we're going to put color on top of that. And that is going to be an exercise for you in learning, okay, here's the value. Now let's work within those values and put colors on that are appropriate. Are you guys ready for this? It's going to be fun. It's going to be simple. It's going to be a building block for you that you can step forward with confidence. So let's jump into it. In this lesson, we're going to very simplified scene that actually is something kind of like this, where you have a beautiful evening and moon and reflection, but we're going to simplify it down to simply just 3 values. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's jump into it. We're going to use the same black and gray and white that we've been using. And we're going to do this in a couple stages. The first stage is we're going to take our gray and we're going to just cover the entire canvas. So again, if you need to mix up more, you do that before you even start, but you can just pause and come back. But it's going to simply be grabbing the gray and putting it over the entire canvas. There's no magic way of doing this. You can use a big brush for this, and your brush strokes aren't going to be, you can do anything. And I would just say observe the final effect of what you did. If you think, oh shoot, I wish I would have done more abstract, just maybe change the brush stroke pattern a little bit. Next time you can do that. If you wish, oh, I wish I would have done all the brush strokes in the same way, you can do that. For me, I'm just doing an abstract kind of, doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to cover the canvas with the gray paint. And now I'm going to dry it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put in the land. So I'm going to come down here and I'm simply going to mix or grab this black. And I've got a slightly smaller number 6 brush. What I want to do is create a straight edge across the bottom. That's going to be the bottom of the land. And we'll try to keep that as straight as we can, because water is level. And at the top, we're going to make the land a shape. And again, we don't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything real detailed. If you wanted to put in some shapes of trees or something like that, you definitely can, but it's not necessary. I'll just change up the size of one side versus the other. And I'll put in a little bit of just thinking about making it a little bit bigger right here. Okay, and so we've got the bottom looks fairly level to me, and the top looks interesting enough. If you want to practice something like we did before, and you want to try to make this top edge a little bit of a softer line. You could do a little bit of dry brushing. You could do a little bit of smudging if you want. Now this bottom line, it's okay to leave sharp, and either way, whether all of it's hard edge, it's totally fine. Now I'm going to dry that. Okay, now as I'm looking at this, I can see that some of this didn't get covered very well, so I'm just going to quickly come in and fill in that. Doesn't matter too much. And then I'm going to wash my brush out. And I'm going to grab the white. And this is going to be the highlight of the painting. I'm going to put a moon right in here. Just right here. Just kind of carefully making something that's pretty round. If you want to use a round brush, you can grab one of those, and that might make it a little bit easier. I'll just grab this right now and see, it's not that you don't necessarily put it down like a dot. That's not the way that the round brush works, but it might be a little bit smaller. You might be able to control it a little bit better. I'm not overly concerned that if it's not perfectly smooth or circular or something like that, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then we're going to come down here. We're going to go directly underneath it. We're going to do a little bit of a reflection. And I'm just grabbing the white, I'm dragging it across. I'm kind of going back and forth just to create a little bit of a ripple effect. And I'm looking to see if I've lined it up, and I think it's okay. Maybe off a little bit, and I think I could also make it a little bit wider, so that's what I'm kind of doing. Coming in here, making it a little bit wider. And look at that. That's what painting is, really. We're working with three values, three main values. It's a value structure that's simple, but simple is often very good in art because you don't want to make things more complicated than they need to be. Oftentimes the simplest designs are the strongest designs. So there you guys go. It's a simple painting, but you've done it, and what a beautiful moonlit evening, and we're looking at this reflection over the land in the distance. So good job. There you go. Okay, so you finished the first.
Hey, Peter, is the next part on there?
Let's see. Let me check.
I just actually created, look at this, guys. I did this right now. I was like, oh man, I wonder if it would be helpful to have another version of this that isn't painted yet. So I just created that and just dried it with my hairdryer real fast. Did anybody paint along with that? Because that was probably kind of hard to paint along with, because there were a few times when I fast forwarded or like had already painted the gray and then dried it and that kind of thing. So I'm sure that there's parts of that were probably almost impossible to actually paint along with. But the idea of having a gray and a black and a white painting, because it really simplifies it down to the very, very, very most basic values. There's no real nuances in between those in this. It's just 3 values. Peter, yeah.
So part 2 to the black and white painting?
Yeah.
Which one? Because that video stops there.
Okay, that video stops right where it was.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yeah. That's all it is.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. So I'm just looking at this because this is the first time that we've done this workshop. Okay, guys. So be a little bit gracious with us because we're kind of like feeling the ebbs and flows of this, and this is like what I'm thinking about right now, Peter. Honestly,
yeah,
is wondering if I should show them how to turn this into a color painting right now.
Yeah, because
I feel like they're going to be ready for it. We were actually thinking that we would end right here, right now.
Yeah,
but I'm thinking, I think you guys are ready for putting color on here. Maybe not at this exact moment where you're at, but later today when you're getting your paints out.
Yeah.
You've got the gray.
What do you guys think? Is it?
Yeah.
Should we stop here? Is that enough information for today? Should we put some color on that black and white sucker tomorrow? What do you guys think? We'll leave it up to you guys.
Oh man,
I see a lot of yeses. Gretchen says
Gretchen's
no.
Like, no.
Oh
no,
keep
going.
going.
Okay, no, keep going. No, keep going. Okay, yeah. So I think I misunderstood the no, but you're saying color. Let's see the color. Okay.
No,
okay. So here's
stop.
the deal, guys. I'm going to do this here right now.
All right.
And we'll just kind of talk about what this looks like and how to. Let me just go like this. Okay, I'm going to get rid of myself on the screen, but okay, you can see I've got my colors here in the same simple colors, just white, yellow, red, blue, and black. And we have a totally grayscale thing here. And I'm actually, since we don't really have a reference photo, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more and give you guys a little bit better view. So obviously a simple scene. And this is where the magic of art really happens, is simplicity. So much of a painting in its most beautiful, like the most beautiful paintings that you've ever looked at. A lot of times they look really, really complex, but when you kind of get down underneath all the complexity, a lot of times they're actually quite simple. And that doesn't mean that they're not thoughtful or not amazing. It just means that the design itself is simple, that the patterns in it are, like, if you could look past the colors and just see the value patterns, you'll recognize things that are tried and true and they work. And so understanding how the values correlate to the colors and how where does this blue fit in? So this next part of this exercise is going to be taking your black and gray and white, and we're going to just start adding a little bit of color. And we're going to be paying attention to, you know how I showed you that grayscale that went 1 was white and 9 was black, 1 being white, 9 being black, and all the way across 1 to 3 was all in the light range. 4, 5, and 6 were all midtones, and 7, 8, 9 were darks. That means that within midtone, there's a little bit of range. Like, it doesn't have to all land on exactly number 5. And all the darks don't have to land exactly on number 9. And all the lights don't have to land on number 1 in that most extreme part of the values. There is a little bit of range here. So, but what we want to think about is how would we do this? And I'm going to go relatively quickly here and just kind of think about how, if you stay within the colors, if you stay within the values, I mean, if I am accurate in putting down the right value here, there's actually a lot of freedom in what color I use. So what do you think this is? Is this a moon over a lake so it's nighttime scene? What do you think it is? I mean, that would work, right? Like that would totally work. Could be a moon. That was kind of like what I did. And the very first time I painted this, that's how I did it. I think I made the sky kind of blue. This was a really dark violet. And this was like pretty much white. But what if it was something different? So yeah, maybe it's a brighter time. How can I know if this is, it's kind of hard. Again, we're talking color versus value. So I'm squinting really hard at this to see if my values are right. But what if I went with something really vibrant, really bright in here? What if it wasn't? What if it was a sunset over a hazy sky sunset? And you know how you can actually kind of look at the sun when it's so hazy? What if we did something like this? Okay, now squint your eyes at these values. This is where you try to see, is it right on with the value? The color is going to shock you if you look at it with your eyes wide open. But when I squint, and I really squint, I can hardly see a difference between these. So that means that I'm pretty close to what it should be. It's in the mid-range. And so I'm just going to roll with this right now and keep going. And this is going to dry a little bit darker, and it's going to dry a little bit darker also because of the gray that's underneath. Well, it shouldn't dry too much darker, I guess, if it's the right value, but I can see some of the gray kind of coming through. So I'm going to have a little bit of a gradation as we go away from that center. I'm going to make it a little bit more red, which will make it a little bit darker, but I'm going to still try to live within that range of mid values. Okay, so we're getting farther and farther away, and I'm adding a little bit more red over here as well. Now you could change this and you could make this a different type of color even. It could move a little bit more towards violet, but you just need to make sure that color stays accurate. Now I'm going to come down right with the same color that I just had on my brush. I'm going to work this back the other direction. And then as it gets a little bit closer, I'll add in more of the yellow so that it's moving more towards this original color that's around the sun. Because the reflection down below is, you can, at least for me right now, I'm just making it the same, not really changing it too much. Then right around this, I'm adding just a little bit more. I'm going to overlap the white a tiny bit here, and I'm going to make it a little bit more yellow right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm just going to come back in one more time with a little bit of this yellow. More yellow in the mix is what I should say. It's not yellow necessarily, but there's more yellow in that mix. And the paint's still a little bit wet, so I'm having to be extra careful so it's not picking up too much stuff. Okay, now I'm going to grab a new brush here. I'm going to grab some color that's like basically white with a little bit of the cadmium yellow in it. And I'm going to do this reflection here. And let's do this part of the sun. Okay, now it has a little bit more nuance to it because I added that little bit of variation right around it. If we were thinking about the different ways that we created the transitions, that's almost like one of those ones that was a hard edge, but a softer transitional color. So I could do something kind of like that again, just with maybe a little bit different of a transitional, like orange. And it's picking up a little bit. If you're doing this, you could maybe take a little bit longer and allow it to dry a little more. We can, oh, whoops, bad color. Not the right mix that I wanted there. But I come across with a couple horizontal brush strokes here that can show, oh, maybe there's a few ripples down there, right? And then what about the dark? You know, if I'm thinking this is a sunset, I'm thinking that maybe this is going to get affected a little bit by that warm sky. So I'm going to just put a little bit of light up here towards the top of the hill, like meaning I mixed in a tiny bit of red or a little bit of red into this, and I'm going to reduce that a little bit as we move away from the sun, so that it's maybe I'm adding a little bit of blue in. So there's actually this over here is more on the violet side as it's farther away. But look at that, guys. I mean, see how interesting those values can be? It was just gray and black and white, and it wasn't super, amazing, right? I mean, it's kind of interesting. But the structure for a really cool scene was right there in front of us. And so if you, the other side of that is that these colors without a strong structure won't make a great image. These colors could look really beautiful in a scene, but they also could look really haphazard and unorganized and distracting. And so what I want you to know in this lesson today is that the structure of this are the values that are down there. And we stayed within our values. And if we can learn to see an image and understand the structure of it and understand how those values work together, and then be able to put colors onto our paintings that really do a good job of corresponding to the correct values that we want to have down for our design, your painting has a really great chance of becoming something beautiful. But it all starts with the foundation of these values. So that's what we want you to do today, is get your gray, your black, and your white, and do that structure, that painting in that way. And then when you're ready to paint, you can do this where you make it bright sunset type of colors with yellows and oranges and reds. Or you could make it a nighttime scene. And this could be more like a blue sky or a violet hill, or you could have greens. You could do whatever you want to do. And as long as you stay within the values, you will have a painting that works well together and is interesting and imaginative. So there you go. Have fun with this one, you guys. And we're going to move toward the next section of our time. But what do you guys think of that?
People are loving it, man.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that pops. Whew.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I was like, I don't know why, but I was thinking, you know what? I should try to get this grayscale painting on my canvas right now so I can do something live.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, people absolutely loving it. I just want to say really quick, I think we're getting a little bit of influx of people from just YouTube like recommending. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the registration link for this whole class. So for any of you guys who are coming in, like you found the YouTube stream and you're coming in later, this is actually part of a 3-day class. This is day 2 of 3, and tomorrow will be our third and final day. But make sure that you register for the class if you haven't registered yet, so that you can get email notifications and stay up to date on times and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And it's time. It is time. I just saw somebody say, is it time for the prize? So I want to do this real quick.
Yes.
Let me go like this. Okay, all replays, all this stuff. We don't really have reference photos so much for this, but we have the supply list. We have all the details for this. It's at acrylicuniversity.com/begin. And that's the place to go for that information. And now we are at the giveaway. So type this in the chat, something like, I want to win. Or just say, hey, it's me. Or sure, I'd love a $50 gift card, or whatever you want to say. But the main thing is you need to chat here with us, because that's how we are going to pick the winner, is by somebody who's chatting here live with us, because it is giveaway time. And we have 2 $50 art supply gift cards that we're going to give away. We gave away 2 yesterday on day 1, and we're going to give 2 away again. I love it. I see somebody just wrote chatting. I love it so much. Pick me, pick me. I want to win. Everyone loves a winner. I want to win. I need paint. I'd love to win. Prizes are great. Hit me up, bro. I'm here. I would love a gift card. I can sure use more paint. I want to win. I want to win. I want to win. I want to win. I've never won anything before. Oh, no. Maybe this is your chance. Who knows? Sure, I'd love to win. Okay, you guys, love it so much. So I'm going to move over and check this out here really quickly. Okay. Do. So, yeah, again, make sure that you, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds here. Oh, look at this. I like this one. I need to win. Pick me. Yes, I want to win. Give me. Awesome. Me. My inner creative dreamer wants to win. All right. I like that. Tying it in. I would like to buy some of those expensive paints. I know paints can be expensive for sure. All right, guys. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to give this away right now. I'm moving in here, and we're going to pick winner number 1. Okay, here it is right here. I will put it in the chat in just a second.
All right. Make sure, guys, email that email if you won, so we can get you your goodies.
Yes. Okay. This is going to Michelle Lombardi. Michelle Lombardi, you are winner number 1. So one of our $50 gift cards will be going toward you. And now I will find the second winner. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. Let me come back over and put it in here. I'm going to do this right now. Okay. Winner number 2 is Rochelle Says. Rochelle Says, however, it might just be your username, but both of you write us at support@acrylicuniversity.com, support@acrylicuniversity.com. Say that you want a $50 gift card. We will verify your email and your name, and give us, I think you probably need to give us an address where we can send that to. But great job, everybody.
Yeah, congratulations, guys.
Congratulations. So tomorrow, want to come back. We're going to do more with color tomorrow. We're going to actually talk about just some of what we talked about today, but it's going to go into more depth, going to understand a bit more. So it's going to look similar to today, but we are here at the Q&A.
Yeah.
And we want to bring Diana back on, and we want to sit here for a minute and answer your questions. So thank you for being here, sticking with us. And Peter, you probably might have some starred from before. I don't know.
We've done a pretty good job getting to them, so I'll throw them up on screen as they come in. Oh,
wonderful.
I did see this one. I told her I'd try to get to it. Somebody asked to see your big old color triangle.
Okay.
And wanted to know what colors.
Let me see if I can grab it.
In the meantime, maybe Diana, you can answer this question.
Yes, using a lot of paint is normal. If you've got a canvas, it sucks up the paint, and you need enough paint on your brush to make the paint glide across your canvas or your panel. Otherwise, it's just scratches. So lots of paint is normal. And if you ever watch me paint, it's buckets of paint. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Are these questions, and Jed, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, this is the I don't know what you can see. This is cadmium yellow light in the middle, cadmium yellow lemon, cadmium yellow deep. This is basically just seeing like what happens when you mix these different reds make different mixes, right? Like cadmium red with cadmium yellow deep makes a pretty vibrant orange compared to quinacridone crimson or one of these magentas. When you mix it with a lemon yellow, it's going to make much dirtier mix of orange, but none of them are quite as vibrant as the cadmium orange that comes out of the tube. So this is a big thing that we talk about in Color 101 and in the simplified palette. It really is cool because it's too easy to say, like, mix a green, because look, there's a huge difference between these greens depending on which yellow and which blue you're putting together. So it's a little bit more of a, I don't know, it's not advanced, but it's the next step, really, I would say, when you're wanting to learn about mixing color, is getting into the actual different pigments and seeing how a different blue, 2 or 3 different blues makes different greens. Like right now, if you're beginning, you just want to think, how does one blue mix with one yellow? I wouldn't even worry about other ones yet. But in time, you can get into that. And it's really fascinating. And it's still makes a lot of sense to me to use a limited palette because you can mix this vast variety of colors and just tweak one of the original primary colors a little bit.
Yes.
And it will open up a whole new door to like a different set of greens than what you might have used in a different painting. And
Yes.
Diana is a master of that, choosing colors, everything like that. But that is that little design.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of questions, so let's try to answer them kind of quick. Can you use fluid paints with heavy body?
They can mix. Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of paper did you use for the example photo? I'm assuming you mean for the demo.
Yeah. Let me see if I have it right here. And it is this Soho canvas paper for acrylic. It's like a little 8x8 pad.
Perfect. Do you often paint without a reference image like you just did?
No, not that often, but sometimes.
What about you, Diana?
I like to use a reference photo for details, but knowing that cameras mess up lights and the lightest lights and the darkest darks, one or the other, unless you're a pro photographer, I take a lot of liberties with my photos and stage the lights according to that scale that Jed put up. Things in the bright light are a 1, 2, 3. Things that are bright colors or transitioning are a 4, 5, 6, and things that are in shadow or 7, 8, 9. I try to stage them like that, in spite of what the photo reference might show sometimes.
Yeah. Do you wet your brushes before loading the paint?
No, I don't.
No, I dry them off.
Is there a specific way to avoid splotches of glaze? I don't know exactly what this is saying, but maybe you guys do.
Mm-mm.
That's probably I can imagine that you did something and you had an issue, and it's very difficult to know what that very issue was. So sorry, I don't have any insight.
How do you look up Diana on the internet?
Oh. You have to type out my name, DIANNA, 2 N's, and Shine, SHYNE, and you'll find me, dianashine.com. That's how you do it.
Very cool. Can you post the triangle? Yes, I'll try to have Jed post it in the Facebook. Is one blue better than another for a beautiful blue sky?
That was kind of what I was saying is no, there's just different kinds of blue and the sky will be different. One thing that we learned a couple years ago was that you can use green in the bottom of your sky and mix it up into a ultramarine blue. Like we were in a workshop, Diana and I together, and the artist used phthalo green mixed with white at the bottom, and then he gradated it up into more ultramarine blue as it went up. And it was the most beautiful sky that you could imagine. And it was not easy to tell that it was green. It looked like it was blue the whole way up. So my point in saying that is that every once in a while you have a particular scene that you're trying to paint and there is a particular color that would represent that very well. But that just you in a like using knowledge as you gain it. Like it might be cerulean blue, it might be phthalo blue, it might be cobalt blue, it might be ultramarine blue, but there's not one that you could just apply and say, yeah, that's the one for a quote unquote beautiful sky. Because it's all skies are different and they honestly can all be very beautiful and all those blues can make beautiful skies.
Yeah.
Yep. And every color.
What proportion of dark tones to light tones make for a strong design for a painting?
Good question.
Very good question. So I think the most important thing is to not have it equal 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You want to have like 2/3 of a dominant value and then a little bit bigger portion, like maybe I don't know if that'd be a quarter. I'm just thinking about percentages, like say 70%, 20%, and 10%. That makes a good ratio, or something kind of like that.
Yeah.
You just want to mix it up, but it doesn't really matter which one is dominant.
How to find complementary color for secondary and tertiary colors?
Oh, go
Easy.
across the color wheel. It's easy.
Just go straight across the color wheel. No matter where you are, you'll get to the complement.
Nice.
I'm trying to think if I have a color wheel right here that I could show. Maybe I'll look while we're reading the next question.
Why doesn't Diana use cadmium paints?
I do, but limited. I stopped using cadmium paints when I used to get them all over my hands, and when I had when I lived on an island where we were, I had to dump my paint water into a hole in the ground because I didn't want to pollute the environment with that. So now I use cadmiums on a limited scale, but I wear gloves. A lot of those cadmium paints are designed not to be toxic anymore, but you don't want to eat them. But still, putting cadmiums down the drain is a environmental problem. And so I just use them in a limited way. And when I'm cleaning up, I take all the solid paints off my brush with a paper towel and let that dry out, because then it's inert. And so there's very limited cadmium in the swished out water. I just make sure to wipe all the solids away.
Awesome.
Okay, Peter, can you show this real quick?
Yeah, just be quick.
Okay, so when you're looking for complementary colors, a color wheel is really helpful, right? Understanding that something directly across, so yellow is directly across from violet, green is directly across from red, and you can get these helpful kind of color wheels that are made for artists so that you can understand even more. Like this has the complementary, obviously, is like right across from each other. But you also have, like, let me see if I can move this thing. It's kind of stuck. But you also have triad colors, and you can figure out what are those, and split complementary. So I would definitely recommend buying something like this that can be helpful for you if you don't really understand the way that colors work together.
Awesome. Can one intermix different paint manufacturers?
Yep, no problem. As long as it's acrylic and acrylic.
Yeah.
You never want acrylic with oil.
No, I accidentally picked up an oil tube when I first started, and it was such a mess when I tried to mix them together. Oh yeah, it was just the goppiest, most horrible mess you could imagine.
What's the weight of paper? 140 pounds? ?
The one that I had is 110 pound canvas paper.
What yellow did you use? My orange didn't look as bright as yours.
Yeah, mine is cadmium yellow light. And that was what I was talking about yesterday. And I did this one example for you guys. If you remember, I'll show you this too real quick, because it's very helpful to see. This is a cheap student grade yellow. See, like I put it down right here. You can't even hardly see it. There's a little bit thicker, and this is as thick as I could get it, and it wouldn't do anything. So this is professional yellow, one thin coat, and this is a thick coat. And so the mixing power of professional grade paints is so much stronger. And that's probably what's going on with you, is that you probably have a paint that's not quite up to snuff in terms of its mixing strength.
Yeah. Does every color come in opaque and transparent or semi-parent? I think it depends on the pigment, but I'm not positive about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the pigment, because pigments come from different sources. Some pigments are made from dirt, and some pigments are made from chemicals. They're made from all different things, and they, those earth pigments are really opaque, and some other pigments are really, really, you can see right through them. There's clear as glass, and you just have to look at the jar. Yeah,
and they do come in all three of those. So yes,
Yeah.
opaque, semi-transparent, and transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you always glaze your paintings when you're done?
I think you mean varnish your paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of us would always varnish our paintings when they're done.
It protects and seals the paint and
Awesome.
makes it all one sheen, one glossiness.
Yeah.
I'm going to show this one. Was today's painting considered an underpainting? No. Actually, Cassie, today this is a total beginner's course, right? So this is the painting for today. It's if you are more advanced, you could totally use this as an underpainting. You could do a little bit more on it. But for the what we're doing in this exact course, that is the depth that we're going, because we're wanting to make this very achievable for somebody who's never really painted before. So thank you, and a good question.
Yes. Okay, I think we actually got them all. So, and it's 12:31.
Oh wow, perfect.
Yeah. Good time.
Awesome.
Okay, Diane, you're in luck. What is the red in your palette, Jed? I have quinacridone magenta from Windsor, but it doesn't look like yours. PV19.
Oh, okay. On mine is cadmium red.
Okay.
This is not quinacridone. This is, and in fact, I don't actually think this is cadmium red, but I usually just say cadmium. I think it's actually naphthol red, because it's very, very similar to cadmium red. It's cheaper. To me, it works the same. I don't really feel like I ever need cadmium red, but it's very, very close, and people usually understand cadmium better than naphthol, so I usually say cadmium.
Cool. Okay, last question. This question is it's crazy, but I love it. Thank you for the answer. How would a person make their own acrylic paint from earth pigments found in the wild?
Who knows?
Well, I don't know either.
Look it up on YouTube.
Look up medieval paint making or something like that, and I don't know.
Well, for sure, oil paints, I know you could probably figure out how to make that easier, because you wouldn't need acrylic polymer and all that kind of stuff. So that's where the tricky part is. But I would say this, that I've been talking with a friend of mine who works for a paint company. He actually is very involved. He's worked there for 30 years, and he's very involved in the manufacturing, like the making of the paint. So it's quite interesting. We're going to have him do a guest demo for us here in a while, but I'm thinking that I might also in the future get him to do something where he goes inside the factory, or he goes into their area and kind of like talks about the process of how they make paint. Because I think it'd be very fascinating to understand a little bit more. He told me, he said, I learn something new every day. There's always a process, there's always a problem to solve, and there's always something that they're discovering, like solutions. He says, I don't love the problems, but I love learning the new solutions.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Whoa, JC, I'm going to save this. I've watched hundreds of YouTube tutorials, and I have never enjoyed any more than I have with your classes. I learned so much. Thank you.
That is awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And guys, thank you for joining us today. Diana, thank you for being here on the Q&A and for being so amazing. Peter, thank you for making everything work. Guys, you are loved and believed in. You're amazing. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on day 3, which is tomorrow. We will see you here, and it's going to be another wonderful day together.
Yes, absolutely.
Goodbye.
Love you guys. Bye.
See you guys.